this is Shekar Ayyar. I am the CEO of Arrcus. Arrcus is a networking software company based here in San Jose, and we're out to disrupt transport networking as you know it. So essentially, routing and switching, they're going to be done in a very different way as we look ahead with Arrcus software coupled with the right form of underlying computer process infrastructure underneath that can take everything from switching in the racks right up to edges to transport as well as core data center infrastructure. That's what we do at Arrcus. So again, thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk about predictions for 2023. As I look ahead at 2023, I see some very, very important inflection points in infrastructure. And so three of them that I'm predicting are: one, I'm predicting what I'd call as a ceiling for the cloud. So far, we've had the last decade where everything about the cloud has been expanding, lots of workloads moving to the cloud. Whereas what I am seeing now is a bit of tempering of that momentum to say, hey, it's not just about one cloud, it's about multi-cloud, it's about movement between clouds, it's about movement of some workloads back from public clouds and private infrastructure. So I don't see this as something where growth is necessarily just kind of peaking out and starting to decline. But I do see this as an important point of inflection where if you start looking at the ramp of the growth rate, it's now going to start turning where things are not actually in a net sense growing as fast as they did before in the cloud. So I'd encourage a lot of people who are using and or trying to use the cloud to start thinking more about multi-cloud and more about hybrid infrastructure in terms of how they can potentially bring some workloads back from cloud inside. Second trend that I'm going to say or predict is what I call the big mashup. So this is around the cloud world and the communications world sort of headbanging to create one real highly performant infrastructure underneath that you can then have applications live on top and start programming to. I think it's a bit of a nirvana state to have all that happen in a year. So I'm not foreseeing that happen everything in 2023, but I do see the beginnings of that happening. So you can actually start creating an application that lives on top of your own private infrastructure, let's say Google, Amazon, or Azure, or Oracle Cloud, and as well AT&T, Verizon, Dish Network, or T-Mobile's network infrastructure. So that's what I call as this giant mashup of infrastructure. Third prediction I have is that infrastructure is going to become much more globally local. And what that means is across the world, you're going to have access to compute, network, storage infrastructure at short hops. So this is essentially an incarnation of what has been happening as the edge infrastructure, but in a much more practically usable and performant way. So if you have an app and that needs infrastructure from your local closet, you're able to get that. If it needs to do some computation locally, it can do that. And then where it needs to, it can also do longer hops and go to kind of more remote destinations. And that's what I'm calling as this sort of global concept of locality in terms of infrastructure. So those are my three predictions. And just to summarize, it's basically clouds reaching an inflection point and a ceiling. Second is a big mashup happening in comms and communications infrastructure. And third is that universally the infrastructure becomes globally local so that you can access it at much lower latencies and much shorter distances. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.